So you're thinking about moving to Medellin. Don't just book a ticket, check out a couple of apartments in El Poblado and make a decision. The real value of Medellin is not just the city itself, it's the neighborhoods, the nearby towns, and the side trips that make this region so unique. That's why if you're serious, I recommend doing a proper scouting trip. Spend 1 to 2 weeks here in Medellin and then take a few short trips that show you the lifestyle you'd actually have if you lived here. In this video, I'll lay out exactly how I'd plan it. I'm Matt, the Americano. Let me show you what it's all about. If you're scouting Medellin, I recommend you spend at least 1 to 2 weeks living right here in the city before you even think about the side trips. Medellin is famous as the city of eternal spring, and that climate is a big part of why expats move here. Warm during the day, cooler at night, not too hot, not too cold. But living here even for a week will show you what it's really like. The rain showers, the air quality, the traffic, all those things you don't get from a travel brochure. Now let's talk neighborhoods, because Medellin isn't one size fits all. El Poblado, this is the expat hub. Modern apartments, high-rises, malls, gyms, restaurants, nightlife. If you're moving from the US, Canada, or Europe, this is where you'll feel most at home. The apartments look familiar, the cafes have Wi-Fi, and yes, there's even a Starbucks. But all that comes with a price. El Poblado is the most expensive area in Medellin. Rents are higher, restaurants are pricier, and it doesn't feel as authentically Colombian as other areas. Still, for a first-time scouting trip, I'd say start here. It shows you Medellin at its most international. Now within El Poblado, you've got Provenza and Parque Lleras. Provenza has some of the best restaurants in the city. It's the culinary heart of Medellin. You'll find everything from fine dining to rooftop bars to casual cafes. But here's the elephant in the room. At night, especially around Parque Lleras, you're going to see visible, well, we'll call them working women on the streets. And for newcomers, this can be a little surprising. For most expats, it's not a safety issue, it's just something to be aware of. If you're there for the food and nightlife, stick to the restaurants and bars and you'll be fine. It doesn't take away from Provenza being an amazing place to eat and hang out, but it's part of the reality, and I think it's worth knowing before you arrive. Now, if El Poblado feels too shiny or too expensive, check out Laureles. This is a leafy residential neighborhood that's becoming increasingly popular with digital nomads and expats. You'll find mid-rise apartments, tree-lined streets, and local cafes. It feels safer, calmer, and more authentically Colombian. It's also more affordable than Poblado, and you're closer to the stadium, nightlife that's more local, and parks where people jog or just hang out. Laureles has this neighborhood feel that a lot of expats end up preferring once they've lived here for a while. Now just south of El Poblado is Envigado. Technically its own city, but it blends right into Medellin. Envigado has a more traditional vibe. Plazas, markets, family-owned restaurants, but it still has modern apartments and shopping. Many expats like Envigado because it feels authentic, but still has the comforts of the metro area. Rent is cheaper than Poblado, you'll hear more Spanish than English, and it's quieter. It's a great compromise between city living and a more suburban lifestyle. Now keep going south and you'll find Sabaneta. This one's interesting because it's rapidly growing, lots of new apartment buildings, but also a strong traditional Colombian culture. The main square in Sabaneta is buzzing every night with families, food stalls, and live music. It's where you get that small town charm, but still have access to the city. If you're scouting Medellin, Sabaneta shows you that not all expat life is in El Poblado. It's livable, affordable, and it feels real. Now, one thing you'll definitely notice while you're here is the metro. Medellin is the only city in Colombia with a metro system, and it's spotless. It's a point of pride for locals. The cable cars that go up into the hills are another Medellin signature. They connect poorer hillside neighborhoods to the city, but they're also a cheap, scenic way to get incredible views of the valley. Uber technically exists, but is still a gray area legally, so drivers may ask you to sit in the front seat. And traffic, yeah, it's rough. but the metro and cable cars really set Medellin apart from other Colombian cities. Spending 1 to 2 weeks in Medellin gives you the real feel. You'll see how each neighborhood is different. You'll experience the daily conveniences, Rappi, grocery stores, gyms, healthcare, and you'll also see the downsides, traffic, rain showers, air quality, and yes, the nightlife scene around Parque Lleras. All of that is important if you're thinking about making Medellin your home base. So now let's talk about side trips. For side trip number 1, I would do Guatape and El Penol. No scouting trip to Medellin is complete without heading out to Guatape and El Penol. This is the most famous side trip from Medellin, and once you go, you'll understand why. It's about a 2-hour drive east of the city, and along the way, you'll start to notice the landscape changing. Rolling hills, lakes, and colorful small towns. The centerpiece here is El Penol, the massive granite rock that jutes out of the ground. Climb the 740 steps to the top and you're rewarded with 360-degree views of lakes, islands, and mountains. It's one of the most iconic views in all of Colombia. And here's the thing, pictures don't do it justice. When you're up there, it feels endless. Just a few minutes away is Guatape, often called the most colorful town in Colombia. The houses and shops are decorated with zócalos, hand-painted tiles at the base of every building, each one telling a story. It's bright, it's cheerful, it's very photogenic, but it's not just for Instagram. There's a real sense of community here, with people out in the plaza, cafes, and lakeside boardwalks. Guatape is also popular for weekend homes and Airbnbs. Many people from Medellin have second homes here because it's just so close. Surrounding the town is a network of lakes and islands created by a hydroelectric dam. You can rent a boat, go kayaking, or stay at a lakeside villa. For expats, this is where you start thinking, could I see myself living here part-time? Because the answer for many is yes. Now, if you've got an extra day, head about 45 minutes further to San Rafael. It's less touristy, more rugged, known for waterfalls, natural swimming holes, and eco-lodges. Here you get a taste of rural Antioquia away from the crowds of Guatape. Now, why does this trip matter if you're scouting Medellin? Well, because Guatape isn't just a tourist spot. For many expats and Colombians, it's part of the lifestyle. Living in Medellin often means escaping to Guatape on weekends, whether to climb El Penol, hang out in town, or relax by the lake. Some expats even choose to live here full-time and just commute into Medellin occasionally. So when you're planning your scouting trip, don't skip Guatape. It's a window into what your weekends could look like. Now, side trip number 2, Jardin and Southwest Antioquia. Another essential side trip when you're scouting Medellin is heading south into Southwest Antioquia, specifically to Jardin, and if you've got the time, also Jericho and Tamices. This region is where you'll really feel Colombia's coffee culture and the slower pace of small town life. Jardin is often referred to as the postcard town. Jardin is about a 4-hour drive south of Medellin. The road winds through lush green mountains, so the drive itself is beautiful. But once you arrive, it feels like stepping into a postcard. Jardin's main square is lined with cafes where people sit outside, drinking coffee, watching the world go by. The architecture is stunning. Brightly painted balconies, colonial-style houses, cobblestone streets. There's also a cable car, really more of a ski lift style chair that takes you up the hillside for panoramic views of the town. And if you're into nature, Jardin has waterfalls, hiking trails, and coffee farms you can tour. For many expats, Jardin is one of those places where you ask yourself, could I live here full time? Not too far from Jardin is Jericho, another colorful Antioquian town with a rich cultural vibe. It's famous as the birthplace of Colombia's first saint, so it has a lot of religious history. But beyond that, it has museums, artisan shops, and more of a cultural edge compared to Jardin. Jericho is less touristy, so you'll see more of what everyday Colombian small-town life feels like. For scouting, Jericho gives you another perspective. It's not just about coffee farms and mountain views. It's about community, tradition, and history. If you want something even more off the beaten path, consider Tamices. It's less visited by foreigners, but it has incredible mountain views, ecotourism, caves, and hiking. Tamices has this untouched quality, like you're experiencing Antioquia before mass tourism found it. For an expat scouting trip, Tamices is valuable because it shows you the rural side of life near Medellin that most people never see. Why does this trip matter for expats? Because Jardin, Jericho, and Tamises show you a totally different lifestyle than Medellin. Here, life is slower. Coffee farming is the backbone of the economy, people know their neighbors, and nights are quiet except for music in the plaza. For some expats, that's exactly what they're looking for, a break from city living without being completely isolated. If you're considering Medellin, spending 3 or 4 days in this region will give you perspective on whether you want the energy of the city or the calm of the small town Antioquia. If Medellin itself feels too busy, too noisy, or maybe just too urban for you, then the next side trip is a must, because a lot of expats and retirees choose to live just outside Medellin in places like Rio Negro, El Retiro, and La Ceja. These towns are only about 45 minutes to an hour from Medellin, but the lifestyle here feels completely different. Rio Negro is probably the most well-known because it's where the international airport is located. But beyond the airport, Rio Negro has become a hotspot for gated communities, modern houses, and suburban-style living. You'll find malls, hospitals, restaurants, all the modern conveniences you want, but without the chaos of Medellin traffic and city life. The climate is cooler than Medellin thanks to the altitude, and that makes it comfortable year-round. For retirees, Rio Negro offers quiet, security, and convenience. You're still close enough to Medellin for shopping, culture, or flights, but you get a more peaceful daily life. Just next to Rio Negro is El Retiro. This town has a much smaller, cozier vibe. It's known for its green spaces, family atmosphere, and traditional town square. You'll find colonial-style houses, small cafes, and artisan shops. Many expats like El Retiro because it feels authentic. You're living in a Colombian town, not an expat bubble. But you still have access to modern services nearby. Real estate here tends to be more affordable than in Medellin, and you get more space for your money. And then there's La Ceja, which has been gaining attention as another option for expats. It's a little more rural than Rio Negro or El Retiro, but it's surrounded by rolling green hills and farmland. The vibe here is peaceful, laid back, and very community-oriented. La Ceja still has supermarkets, clinics, and schools, but it feels less developed, more like a place to relax and enjoy the countryside while staying connected. For someone looking for a slower, quieter lifestyle without being totally isolated, La Ceja might be the sweet spot. So why does this trip matter for expats? Well, because Rio Negro, El Retiro, and La Ceja are where you'll find retirees and families who want Medellin access without Medellin headaches. You're close to the airport, close to modern healthcare, and close to the city, but you're living in a quieter, safer environment with cleaner air. A lot of expats who start in El Poblado eventually move out here because they realize they'd rather trade nightlife for space, greenery, and peace of mind. So if you're scouting Medellin, don't skip this area. Spend a couple of days visiting these towns, walk the plazas, check out local housing, and imagine your life here. For many expats, this is the true sweet spot of living near Medellin. Now we have side trip number 4. If you've spent time in Medellin, Guatape, Jardin, and the surrounding suburbs like Rio Negro or El Retiro, you might think you've seen everything this region has to offer. But there's one more side trip you shouldn't skip: Santa Fe de Antioquia. This town gives you a whole different vibe. Colonial history, blazing hot weather, and a much slower pace of life. Santa Fe de Antioquia was actually the original capital of the Antioquia region before Medellin took over in the late 1800s. When you walk through the cobblestone streets, you'll see why it's often called an open-air museum. Colonial houses with wooden balconies, whitewashed walls, and historic churches dominate the town. The main plaza, Plaza Mayor, is lined with old buildings, cafes, and vendors. It's like stepping back in time. One of the first things you'll notice is the climate. Santa Fe is in a lower valley than Medellin, which means it's much hotter. Think 85 to 95 degrees Fahrenheit. If Medellin is eternal spring, Santa Fe is eternal summer. This is where people go to escape Medellin's cool, rainy weather. You'll see a lot of hotels and fincas with pools because that's the lifestyle here: swimming, relaxing, and soaking up the sun. One of Santa Fe's most famous landmarks is the Puente de Occidente, the Bridge of the West. It's a massive suspension bridge built in the late 1800s that crosses the Cauca River. At the time, it was one of the biggest suspension bridges in the world, and it's still impressive today. Walking across it, you not only get amazing views, but you also feel the history of how connected this little town once was to the rest of Antioquia. For expats, Santa Fe de Antioquia isn't usually a full-time living choice. It's a bit too hot and too small for most people, but it's important to see on a scouting trip because it shows you the weekend lifestyle Colombians here enjoy. Many people from Medellin own fincas in Santa Fe or rent them on weekends. If you live in Medellin, this is one of the easy weekend escapes, just about a 90-minute drive through a new tunnel that cuts the old travel time in half. So even if you wouldn't live here full time, knowing that you can have sunshine, colonial charm, and poolside relaxation this close to Medellin is part of understanding the bigger picture of life here. So think of Santa Fe de Antioquia as the sunny counterpart to Medellin's spring climate. If you move to Medellin, you'll likely end up here for a weekend getaway, and seeing it during your scouting trip gives you that sense of contrast that makes life in Antioquia so dynamic. And if you've made it out to Rio Negro and El Retiro, I recommend going just a little further to El Carmen de Viboral. This town is famous all over Colombia for its ceramics. For more than a century, artisans here have been hand painting plates, cups, and tiles in colorful floral designs. You'll see this artwork everywhere on the houses, in the plazas, and of course in the workshops where you can watch people painting by hand. El Carmen has a classic small town Antioquia vibe, peaceful streets, colorful buildings, and cafes where you can sip coffee surrounded by ceramic art. It's not just a place to buy souvenirs, it's a place to see living Colombian tradition. For expats, it's a nice reminder that within less than an hour of Medellin, you're not just getting suburban comfort, you're getting towns like this where art and culture are woven into daily life. So why does all of this matter if you're thinking about Medellin? Well, because moving abroad isn't just about picking an apartment in a city. It's about choosing the lifestyle that comes with that city. And Medellin offers one of the most diverse lifestyle menus you'll find in Colombia. Here's what your life could look like if you base yourself here. During the week, you're living in a modern, connected city with a metro system, cable cars, international restaurants, and a cost of living that's a fraction of what you'd pay back home. On the weekend, you can be in Guatape climbing El Penol, relaxing by the lakes, or staying in a colorful Airbnb. You can head south to Jardin or Jericho for coffee farms, colonial towns, and quiet plazas where life moves at a slower pace. And if you want suburban comfort, Rio Negro, El Retiro, and La Ceja give you space, gated communities, cooler weather, and a quieter life, and still close to Medellin. And if you want sunshine and history, Santa Fe de Antioquia is just over an hour away. With colonial charm and eternal summer weather, for expats, that's the real draw of Medellin. You're not locked into one lifestyle. You can have city life, rural charm, colonial history, warm weekend escapes, and peaceful retiree suburbs, all within a couple of hours. So when you're scouting Medellin, don't just walk around El Poblado or Laureles and make your decision. Take the time to see these side trips, because they're what transform Medellin from just another city into a base for an entire lifestyle. So that's how I'd plan a proper scouting trip to Medellin. Spend 1 to 2 weeks in the city itself, and then take those side trips to Guatape, Jardin, Jericho, Tamices, the expat-friendly suburbs like Rio Negro and El Retiro, and of course Santa Fe de Antioquia. Each of these places gives you a different perspective on what life could look like here, from modern city living to colonial charm to coffee country to quiet suburban retreats. And together they show you why Medellin isn't just a city, it's a lifestyle hub. If you found this video helpful, make sure to subscribe because I'll be doing more of these scouting trip guides, including Bucaramanga and Barranquilla, so you can compare Colombia's top expat cities side by side. And don't forget to check out my free weekly newsletter, The Passport, where I share even more expat tips, cost of living breakdowns, and behind the scenes stories. The link's in the description below. I'll catch you in the next video. Take care.